Welcome to the Sheffield Sunday As Bill Sees It meeting. This is a main chair meeting, and today is with great pleasure and with much gratitude that we welcome Don C. from Colorado, who's come to share for about 40 minutes, after which we'll open up the meeting for general sharing, or if you'd like to ask a question. Thank you, Don. It's wonderful to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon from 5 o'clock in the morning in Mesa, Arizona time. So I had to get up early, get my tea going, but I have had a couple of cups of tea, so I'm ready for this. But anyway, thank you for for asking me to share. I remember some years ago. I was asked to come to Alaska to talk at a leadership group for some Native kids up there. And I went there, and at the end of the day, one of the young men stood up and he said, all eagles stand up. In Alaska, they have two clans. They have an eagle clan and a raven clan. So a number of the kids stood up, and then he spoke about a summary about what I said that day. Then pretty soon, one of the young girls stood up and said, all the ravens stand up, and they did. And she gave a summary of what went on that day. And so having dinner with a sponsor that evening that wasn't on the agenda, and I asked her, I said, what was that about? These young people did this. And she said, a long time ago, she said, when guests would come to our villages, that young people were not allowed to speak. But at the end of the day, after they had a meal, then the young ones had to get up and tell that person what went on for them that day. And the reason for that was they wanted that guest to know that their words didn't fall to the ground. And I thought, what an amazing tradition that they had there. So I mentioned this is I don't think that I'm going to share anything of any value that anyone don't know, because the things that I know is what you guys have taught me being in this program. So I guess at the most, at the end of this 40 minutes or whatever, is my hope is for you to know that your words didn't fall to the ground. On August 10th, 1978, I entered this program as a hopeless drunk, and I could not believe the things that you were saying. I didn't even like you, most of you, when I came in, and that wasn't necessary. But the stories that you told, I started to connect to them, and so I'll just be telling you back some things that that you told me about. I guess one of the things I found in my recovery in this program is AA. I call it the wisdom cloud. You get up in the morning and you start this walk, and there's this wisdom cloud above you. And I remember the first year that I came in, this cloud would rain a little wisdom down, and keep coming back, and think, and let go and let God. And there's all these things that the serenity prayer, all these things worked, and it, going to meetings and listening to you, it kept me sober. And then I got a sponsor, and to me that was kind of familiar to me because I'm from the Mohican tribe, and in our community we have elders. And so they always say when you're younger, you always should have an elder in your life. And so that was a familiar. And then this person that I asked to be my sponsor is the one who took me through the big book of AA. And I had that book before. I had read it, and I knew they were talking about, there were instructions in there on how to stay sober. I could never find them on my own. But then as the sponsor started to show me, I started to see that the instructions were in there. And so I was taught to go through the work every year. prior to my AA birthday. And so last August, I celebrated my 46 years of sobriety. And of those 46 years, I've been through the work 39 times that I've gone through there. And so I still go in that wisdom cloud. I'm getting ready in July to go through the work again. And each time I go through it, there's more wisdom comes down. So in this paragraph on page 55, if I were to share with it my first year, I would have an interpretation. If I were to share to it my 20th year, I'd have an interpretation. So I'm going to intend to share my experience, latest experience, with how I see what this wisdom of Bill Wilson said. You know, the elders, they always tell you a story or something, and the first time you hear it, you think, "Oh, I got it." Then a year later, something happens, and you read this again. You go, "Oh, that's what he meant. I didn't even know it was in there. I didn't know that sentence was in there." It's like how many times I've read through the big book, I still find sentences I never saw before, and I thought, "Who put this sentence in here?" But it's something that that I needed to see. And so what I kind of like that first sentence where it speaks about this relationship with the Creator. And I made a vow the first time through the work when I finished my fifth step. I had an experience there, and it was such a strong one to me. I said, from now on, this program is my way of life. This is how I will live my life. It's the only thing I did that helped me to not drink. And so I said, if somebody comes along and gives me something fancy, there's 7 habits, do this, I won't do it unless I can reconcile it in these steps. That's just my agreement with myself. And so that's how I think. So when I read something like this, I guess I trigger, is this reconciled with the 12 steps, is how I look at it. And one of the things that I have found is in my morning meditation, my morning beginning, when I wake up in the morning, I used to get up in the morning, I'd say, "Oh, good God, it's the morning." But now I wake up and I say, "Oh, good morning, God." Then my next thing I say, "I'll meet you at the coffee pot." Because I know it says I'm supposed to do something on awakening, and I'm not awake when I wake up. So I need to have some tea or some coffee, or lately I've been introduced to some English biscuits, and I just love them. I found out they really taste good, and so I have that with my tea in the morning. And so one of the things I found out that I didn't know the first time through the work was there are 2 systems of thought that all my thoughts go. One is love and one is fear. And so when I do that morning meditation, 5 things it says. Awaken in the morning, you consider the 24 hours ahead, consider your plans for the day. You ask God to direct your thinking. Divorce this day from self-pity, dishonesty, and self-seeking motives. And so I start my day in that way. And I used to not ask God to direct my thinking. And the way what was in my head that I was using to do my thinking was not very good. It got me into a lot of trouble. So I think in this paragraph it says that we weren't made God's image to just be radical. What I found later on was if I do the morning meditation on a regular basis, one thing that says, if I do those 5 things, it says your thought life will be on a different plane. Whoa, that's kind of heavy when you think about what does that mean? And I was sponsored later on by a native guy named Johnny Looking Cloud. And he was both a traditional man, but he was also sober for a long time. And so he used to talk to me a lot about the natural order of thought. And the way he said is that in the human being in your head, this is where you're taught to think. Then what that thinking does is it allows me to create action plans. And then once I make the action plan, the natural order next is if I do that plan, then there's certain results happen. Then once the results take place, he said there's a set of spiritual laws that gives you consequences. So if you tell the truth, there's a consequence. If I lie, there's a consequence. If I tell the truth, you trust me. If I don't tell the truth, get distrust, so you start to back away. And so it used to be my thinking, and it wasn't good thinking, so I didn't have bad results. So I would drink, and that caused many consequences. And some of the things I did, I couldn't even remember I did them until I wake up the consequences in jail or whatever. And so what I learned from you was I needed to have this God in my life, which I was not in favor of. One of the reasons is I attended a boarding school on our reservation, and that wasn't always a pleasant experience. And so when I came to you, one of the things you said I had to do was to turn my life, my will over to this care of God. So what I learned from that was my head creates thinking, creates results, creates the actions. If I ask the Creator to guide this head, if I turn my thinking over to the Creator, I've added something. So now I have, in the morning, I ask for the Creator, you take charge of it. So now my thinking should be in line with the spiritual path that you have taught me, these 12 principles, which creates actions, which create results, which changes the consequences in my life. So I found out that what I really have the ability to do is to be a co-creator. The Creator made this earth and all the things that are on it. That's why we call him the Creator. But the creation isn't done. And so I'm not just to be dormant and whatever. I have the ability to co-create. So let's just say in my sobriety, I want an apple pie. So I don't talk to the Creator, say, oh, give me apple pie, I'll be good, give me apple pie. I used to, early in sobriety, I would look at this thing about God's will. Is this God's will? Am I supposed to turn left, or am I supposed to turn right? Should I color this? I was around asking all these questions and kind of knowing I'm supposed to be shaped up and just, be like a pottery and just whatever. But I found out that's not what this program is about. I had the ability, if I want an apple pie, you don't need to pray for it. Go find some apples, build a fire, get a pot, get a pan, cook it, make the dough, put it in the oven and cook it. That's how you get an apple pie. It isn't always from the Creator. He put things in place and says, if you do 5 things, now go think. I'm able to think, and I'm able to create, and I'm able to do. And it's not just there. It's in the book. There's some things in the book that they tell me this is possible for a drunk like you, for a drunk like us. And one of the things it says is possible, that I have the ability to carry a vision of God's will in every area of my life. I have a vision. I mean, this is kind of heavy because it says I can look at my relationships. I could see the vision of God's will in that, how I'm supposed to be. I could look at my work and recovery. I can see a vision for that. So if I have a vision of God's will in every area of my life, it reduces the request during prayer. Because once I have the vision, then this one of the teachings that we get is that we move towards and become like that which we think about. So if we move towards and become like that which we think about, is it important to think about what we're thinking about? Well, yeah, it probably is. But it's not there. But one of the things that I was taught in the steps is the steps are, even though they're numbered separately, even though you do them in order, they're interconnected with each other. There's information from one that gives you information for the next. So what I learned was step 2 came to believe that a power greater than ourselves. Step 2 is came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. I have the ability to create a vision in step 2, which gives me an idea of my spiritual awakening in step 12. It starts to say, oh, this is what the possibility is. And so to figure out, to get the vision of God's will in every area of your life, there's a freedom in there that you don't go around, should I turn left? Should I turn right? Should I turn to blue? You just let it happen because your thinking, you see, is in that place. So we have the ability, I think, to think. And of course, I think in this reading, they also talk sometimes that we have problems. Then what is it we do? So again, I think I turn to the book, and I kind of like this part. And at first, to get a problem solved was a major thing with many meetings, and many calls to a sponsor, and many fears, and many other things. And then you'd hear the wisdom in AA. God says yes, God says no, God says wait. God, so you said, God, will you hurry up because I got to have this decision by tomorrow morning, or whatever. So sometimes it's not that way. But one of the things I found out in the book is that when we face indecisions, then what we are to do is we are to ask for some help. And what I found out was when we have indecision, we pray for an intuitive thought, we pray for inspiration, or for some right thinking. And then, so I used to do that. I have a problem, I'd ask for one of these 3 things, like the book says. And then the next thing it says, after you ask, relax, take it easy. That's how it says. And so very often when I would ask, I wasn't relaxed. I wouldn't take it easy. Hurry up. No, I need it. So I'd have all this anxiety, but it seems to me in my relationship with this power that I work with, is it speaks to me when I get quiet, not when I'm loud. So if I ask for an inspiration, thought, or a decision, and I'm uptight, I shouldn't ask again, well, where are you? How come you don't hurry up? What I need to do is to relax. So if I found that I'm in indecision and I've asked the Creator for inspirational thought or whatever, what I'm to do is I'm to relax. Just get calm, because that's when the answer is going to come, when I'm calm, not when I'm all uptight. It seems to be the easiest way. I have got answers when I'm uptight, but very, very seldom. Mostly I get the answers that I want to know as the answer is when I get quiet. In my last trip through the steps, I got stuck, I guess is what I would say. And I got stuck on step 2. And the work that I had done in step 1, looking on my unmanageability, long-term sobriety, I think sometimes is harder than early sobriety, because at first what you're looking 4 is your unmanageability. They're big rocks. Later on, there's the little rocks, but now those little rocks are your big rocks, and sometimes they're hard to find, because if I position myself in the morning to be in the love system, then there's a certain consequence for that. But supposing I don't, then I'm going to be in the fear system. And then there is a God in the fear system. And for me, it's called my ego. So my ego, if I can get in the fear system, it loves to talk to me about all the possibilities of what the ego considers to be, a way of life. And I found out it seems the job of my ego is to separate me from God. That's its main function, to do whatever it can to separate myself. And I find things like the ego loves to analyze itself. You don't need to do inventory. I'll tell you what's wrong with you, and it'll go on and on and on. And my last trip through the steps, probably everybody knows this, and I just, once again, was in that wisdom cloud and had one of these moments of aha. And it seemed all while I was growing up, I was taught to look at what was wrong with me. And then you were corrected, and then teachers, and they would say, this is what's wrong with you. And then a coach, you play basketball or whatever, this is what's wrong with you. And then you got in a marriage and a relationship, and he or she would tell you this is what's wrong with you. And then you start drinking, and you have everybody, cops and everybody tell you what's wrong with you. And then they come into AA, and they say, well, we got a program that helps you to find what's wrong with you. And then when you find out what's wrong with you, it's called a defect. That means that you're defective. And so all those years, I'd hear this word defective, and I don't know, it didn't settle. It irritated me to think, because you would hear on TV, this car is defective, this thing is defective, there's a recall, this is defective. And it found something that was broke or something that wasn't right. And what my aha was, that I think connects to this thing on seeking guidance, is I found out the truth is there never ever was anything wrong with me. What I was supposed to be looking for is what happened to me, not what was wrong, but what happened. And then how did I act? And so you get into inventory, you put your name in the first column, then you say, this is what they did to me. Then you get into the next column, if you write column inventory, and you say, this is what happened. This isn't what was wrong. And so there was a relief. The last time I went through the work, I was merely focusing most of the time on what happened to me, what's happening to me, now what's wrong with me. And I found out even if I'm messing up, there's nothing wrong with me. Is there stuff going to happen? Yeah. And when those things happen, that doesn't mean that I'm defective. It means I just have a thinking error. It's this thing that happened. I don't know how to think. I don't have that yet. And so all of a sudden I say, oh, okay, this is the wrong thoughts that you are having. The head thinks, creates action, creates results. It doesn't mean there's nothing wrong. There's a natural order to thought. If you only know the thought that is out of harmony, you're going to create that action, and then the ego will help justify it. Oh, this is the reason why it's okay to tell somebody, and then there's consequences for that. And then what I used to do in the beginning is blame somebody. If at first you don't succeed, fix the blame fast. It's not my fault. It's this idiot I was married to or whatever. And so I found that going to that wisdom cloud. So this time when I was stuck, I had done some good work, I thought, in step 1, looking at unmanageability. And when I came to step 2, I was really struggling with it. I just could not get the grasp on it. And so once again, I turned to a few of the native elders that I know, the old spiritual people. and I was talking to them about what was going on, and they're in recovery. And one of them said to me, they said, well, the reason you are struggling in step two is they said, your God is too small. And it bothered me to hear that, because most of the years of my sobriety, how I defined this power was by the big book, and it has 5 explanations of a God. One is God is a father, you're the relationship. He's the employer, you're the employee. He's the principal, you're an agent, and he's the maker. And so I've always have used that as my guiding principles of, doing the work and doing step 11 in the morning and doing the review at night. And then for having them to say your God is too small. So each time I went to the wisdom cloud, I would change my God. And I used to hear this saying, it says, tell me what you think about yourself, and I'll tell you what you think about God. Then some people would say, you tell me how you believe about God, and I'll tell you what you think about yourself. That there's a connection between those two beliefs, what you believe. And so I was shocked. I am from the Mohican Nation. It's a tribe. There's 572 tribes in the United States, and I'm from the Mohican Nation. And so as I talked to some of the elders here, I asked them, I said, I said, how did you do your spirituality? I said, you were known to do ceremonial things and all kinds of powerful spiritual things. I said, how did you do this? And my latest experience is they told me, they said, well, they said when the Europeans came here to our land, they said what they did is they bought a concept of God. Then they had their schools, and then they taught us about this God. And what they said was that God was a man, and what they call as God was Father. So they said, what you have done is you have made your God human. He's like a daddy, a good daddy. I mean, every time I go through this cloud, and I would change my relationship with God, because I think in the 5th step it says 3 things happen if you do a 5th step. You discover the obstacles in the path, you get a new attitude, and you get a new relationship with God. And that would happen. It always seemed I would improve and God would improve. So there was this connectedness, you see, between the two. And so they said, in the old days, they said, we didn't have God to be a gender. That's not how we looked at it. And so I started to question them. I said, well, what did you say? And in some cases, they would speak a word in their language, and then I'd have to find a translation for it. How I had no idea of how to look at God without being a father or a grandpa or whatever. I would make it. And so I kind of become depressed once again in the program, walking through this cloud. But I have known then is that it means I'm searching for something. There's something I'm supposed to go. And so once again, I come into the people who are in the program, and it just so happens these people were also familiar with the native culture, is that they knew about the old days and those types of things. So after they got done, I started this search to figure out, how do I find this concept of God without violating the big book? Can I still stay to my commitment of the 12 steps? And so as I searched it, I found the closest thing I could find to what the elders talked about was Emmett Fox. And Emmett Fox has a little booklet called The Aspects of God. And so What I found out is that was very close to what the elders say. So if I'm to be a co-creator with God, my God's bigger, I can co-create bigger. I can think differently. I'm on a different plane again, see, with the Creator. So how I remember these 7 aspects of what Emmett Fox talked about is if I take the first initial of each of the 7 aspects, it comes out to a saying like "still, please," like "shh," like "still, please," STIL, still, PLS, please. And so I have found in the morning when I take a look at problem solving, like this paragraph says, when it takes a look at not being created in the image of God, that I have the ability to position myself in the love system. I can do 5 things to put my position on a different plane. I had no idea when I came in what a 6th sense was. I knew about, I guess about the 6 senses. I knew about the 5 I got in nonsense, That was the ones that I knew. I didn't know there was another sense that allowed me to access the spiritual world. And the book says if I do certain things, I will develop the 6th sense. In other words, it's access to the spiritual world. That's where the 6th sense, sometimes it's called the intuitive. I didn't know that I had the ability to develop that. And so how I remember what these 7 aspects are, S, it stands for this creator I'm looking for is not a daddy, it's a spirit. S, it says it's a spirit. So I wasn't fully sure what that meant and how to use it at first, because I was used to having to go somewhere, seemed like, but the spirit is everywhere. The spirit was inside in a way. And then I found out the elders talked that way. They didn't look at it as being a human name. The words that they were translating meant spirit. Sometimes the word would be the great mystery. They had different words, that they called it, but it wasn't a human name. Then the second thing was this thing is the truth, STIL. It's not that it knows the truth, it is the very truth. So I have the ability in making decisions to have direct access to the truth as a drunk. I have the ability, I have to go through nobody. I can use these 12 steps and get directly to the source of what truth is. So I have a BS sorter. So I watch, for example, all the stuff that's going on in the United States now. I can sort out what is really going on pretty much, no matter what the TV says or no matter what anybody is saying. I can see what is going on. STI, I stands for intelligence. So the elders saw that this was an intelligence system. It synchronized, it had synchronicity, it had cycles, it had knowledge, it made things all help one another. It was a giving system. And so when they would go into that spiritual world to pray, they knew that there was that. It's not that it's smart. It is the intelligence system. That there's a big difference in if something's smart or it is the system itself. STI and L, it means life. It's the life force. So as a drunk going through the wisdom cloud, I don't go around saying, is this God's will? Is this God's will? Is this God's will? Thank you, Father. I've changed once again. And I'm able to share this. And this is just my experience. It's not, I'm just saying this is how things are working out in my recovery right now. So it's spirit, truth, intelligence, life. Then P is its principle. Principles is a thing that exists. You cannot see it. The Creator doesn't give you access to it. You can only experience it. You can experience oxygen, but you can't control who breathes and who don't. It's just there. And then the other L, that's love. So I have the ability that it's not that it's a loving thing, it is the love. So I have the ability for the love. And then soul, PLS means soul, which to me means it's like a shapeshifter. It can be me here in the United States. It can be somebody else in Washington. It can be the flowers. It can be the plants. It can be the cactus. It can be the animals. It has the ability to take on different shapes, but inside it's the spirit that keeps it alive. It keeps it all interconnected, you see, with each other. And so I am still experiencing what a lot of these things mean. So in the morning, when I do my 11th step and it says I ask God to direct my thinking, I just don't say, God, direct my thinking. I say, all right, Spirit, I want you to be involved in my thinking. So in a native way, when we call on these things, we call them helpers sometimes. So I look at the Spirit as a helper. Then the other helper is the truth. Another helper is the intelligence. That's why I want direct my thinking. And then I want love. I want love to direct my thinking. And I want to know about principle, that I make my decisions according to that, not what I want, but according to the system that is there, and then the life, and then the soul. So sometimes when I'm facing indecision in the morning, I'll say, I think I need three of the helpers. I think I need the intelligence in this one. I think I need the life force, and I think I need the love. And then I think what also is important is there's that part in the morning where it says, divorce this day from self-pity, dishonesty, and self-seeking motives. It means that this power has the ability to not have them show up. I get a problem, self-pity don't show up. I get a problem, it doesn't. That's what I'm asking. Don't have, because those are ego weapons. If it can get me into self-pity, I'm screwed. If it can get me into dishonesty where I'll lie, consequences are waiting for my thinking and my action, and things that I'm taking. And so I have gone to the wisdom cloud. I never thought that at 46 years of sobriety, I would be entertaining a new concept of God. And yet, it's by the big book. And yet, I'm working the steps by the big book. It's that I'm allowed God as you understand Him. So we each have the ability to understand that power, differently. And so I have seen this seeking guidance. I think that possibility, I have at certain times experienced having knowledge of God's will in every area of my life. And I'm finding that sometimes that wasn't always the best, because it made me relax on my prayer. When everything is flowing pretty good, it's hard to sometimes maintain the prayer that got you there. So sometimes it's kind of been a trap. So I've learned in seeking this guidance. I'll close with this: is what we would call this path is in our culture, is we call it the red road. That there's this road that we travel, a path that we travel, and people name it differently things. And I remember early in my sobriety, Johnny Looking took me in his backyard, and I was struggling again, having problems. And he's a native elder, and so in his backyard, he took a stick and he drew a line in the dirt, and he says, "I want you to get on that line. I want you to put one foot in front of the other. I want you to walk this line that I drew." He said, "I know you know how, because the cops taught you how to do that." And I said, "Yeah, they did." So I got on there and I put one foot in front of the other, and he walked beside me. All of a sudden, he gave me a big push and get back on the line. So I get back on the line and I walk some more, and then he pushed me the other way and get back on the line. And he did that 7, 8 times. And so you see me on the line, you see my footprint off to the left, off to the right, And so we come back and we sit down and he says, I want you to look at what just happened here. He said, you in your recovery, you were walking a red line. As he said, it's not a line. He said, it's a road. He said, see where your footprints are? How wide that is? As he said, all of that space is sacred. He said, you're on the center. It means you're in harmony with the steps. It means when you go off of harmony, your thinking is changing. And when it changes, you're going to get some feedback. You're going to feel tension. You're not wrong. So he said, these defects and things that you talk about in the AA, he said, those are sacred because inside that defect is your knowledge of God. The defect is your teacher. It is your friend, and it won't leave you alone until you are able to find that knowledge. It's like the knowledge is inside of the defect. And so those are the things that you all have taught me. And so I know I didn't tell you anything new, but I want to thank you for allowing me to share this little bit to let you know that your words didn't fall to the ground. It's worked so far for 46 years, and I still come to you for advice, and I still listen, and I am more than willing and honored to get up at 5 in the morning to have a chat with my relatives in recovery in England. So thank you very much for allowing me.